I did not.
He said do it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the October 6th workshop meeting of the Marlborough Township Board of Education. Cindy, would you please call the roll?
Good evening, everyone. Mrs. Dean?
Here.
Mrs. Ennie?
Here.
Mrs. Cow is not here. Mrs. Lou Riddell's not here. Mr. Marshall?
Here.
Mrs. Matos?
Here.
Mrs. Rosenwald's not here. Mrs. Wolf?
Here.
And Mr. Lalonsky.
Here. Please be advised this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, the Sunshine Law. Adequate notice of the date, time, and agenda has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and news transcript. Has been posted and filed with the Marlborough Township Clerk. Copies have also been sent to each district school and other area newspapers in accordance with the law. Bring your attention to, but I'm not going to read its entirety, statement of videotaping a public portion of Board of Education meetings, a public session statement, as well as no smoking on school grounds. Everybody, please rise and join me for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Quick review of the agenda shows that Dr. Hiss will be giving a referendum presentation tonight, followed by our first public session open to any item, as well as questions about our referendum. We'll have movements on motions on financial and business operations matters, personnel matters. We'll also be discussing policy development, community relations matters, and we'll have some old business, maybe some new business, and a final public session as well open to any item. So we're going to start off tonight with Dr. Hibbs' presentation on the referendum. I'll ask you to hold your questions to a public session, and we'll take it from there. Dr. Hibbs.
Thank you, sir. Hi, everybody. How are you? Thanks for coming. Okay, so our presentation. So what the board has decided to do is that we are going to hold a referendum on Tuesday, November 3rd, to address two separate components of necessary items that we feel need to happen in our school district. The first part is the infrastructure and the capital improvements, and the second part is the addition at the Abbott Early Learning Center. There's one question we get a lot. Is it one ballot question? Is it two? It's going to be one ballot question included for both. A lot of people have asked the question of why? Why one ballot question? On the advice of our professionals, both the referendum consultant and our engineer and architect, as the first referendum that we're trying in this venue for this, it's better to do it as one question. Okay. How did we get here? I'm not going to read. This is probably about the sixth time I've done this. Long and short, we did a comprehensive study of our facilities, top to bottom, soup to nuts. So our architect and engineer went into every building. They explored every nook, every cranny, looked at everything through a systems process, and they came back and they rank ordered our area of priorities. I use 9-3-1, 9 most important, 3 meaning it's important but not a 9, 1 meaning it's not as important as 3. What you're going to see that we talk about tonight for the infrastructure and the capital improvements are our 9s. Okay? They are big ticket items. These big ticket items, they essentially total cost of about $26 million. They are not things that we ignored as a school district, or that we didn't address, or did not properly maintenance. We have systems that are original to building. We have unit ventilators at Athena that are almost 50 years old. So there are systems that they've outlived their expected life, and it's time for us to really take a second and make a plan so that we don't have systemic issues. You know, we have well over 5,000 children here. Last year at Asher, the boiler literally a piece came off of the boiler, literally out of it. We had to weld it back on in order for us to actually make it so we had hot water and then order the new boiler. But those types of things, you can't buy that at Lowe's. I don't think you can buy that at Lowe's, right, sir? You can't. You transport boilers that big?
No.
Okay. So at the end of the day, those are the systems that we're really going after. We had about a 72-page
Yeah, about that.
a 72-page essential needs assessment. You can find that summary on the website. If you'd like to see a copy of the total and come in, I'm happy to disclose what we have, as long as there wasn't any security that we couldn't show you. Okay, so that was long and short. Then what we did was we took our priority projects, we took them, the board decided what they felt was appropriate. That went to the MBOE, the Department of Ed. The Department of Ed came back and they conducted its review, and then that really has led us to having the referendum on November the 3rd. That's okay. How you doing? Okay, so what essentially is a bond referendum? It's really the board seeking public approval by vote for the financing of major school construction projects. This one, like we had discussed, are the capital projects and then the addition at Abbott. It will specify the amount of money that will be attempted to be raised, which I'll go over in a second few. And it will talk about the number of years. And the number of years is 20. And the interest rate, Sin, was it 3.4?
3.5.
3.5. And the interest rate would be 3.5 that we would have.
That's a projection. That's not, we won't know what the actual interest rate is until we sell the bonds.
Thank you, Cindy. Cindy's our business administrator. She knows everything money. Very smart. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Why are we having this bond referendum now? So there's 5 points here that really why. The first one is it's simple time. We don't want to be in a spot where we're neglecting big ticket items because it's bad for our children. We have to address these. These need to be done. Just so you have a basic understanding too, because one of the questions we get or that gets raised to me is, Dr. Hibbs, why didn't you budget for these? Why didn't the board budget for these types of things? Our total operating budget is upwards of $90 million. These projects in total are all about more than $26 million. It's roughly 1/3 of our operating budget. There is no way, can you hear me or not? Intimate. Oh. I don't think it is. Can you hear me? Yes. It has to be literally up my nose. So at the end of the day, that is 1/3 of our operating budget. It's not physically possible. Just you can't do it. So regardless of planning, how we might stretch it out, it would take years upon years to put all of that into a budget.
Not only that, excuse me, but not only that, but you wouldn't get the 40% of debt service aid on the projects either. So right now, what we're projecting in this is the 26 million for the capital projects, but we're getting 10.5 million in debt service aid on this. If we ran it through our general budget, we would not get any aid for that.
Absolutely. Took my bullet point number 5.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay. So second one is all about full day K. I've started here. This is my 3rd year. Since I've been here, there have been numerous community members that have come before the board, and they ask the same question all the time. Why do we not have full day K? Why? And really, Abbott was built as a half day. That's how it was built. And when we look at best practice, when we look at what is best for the children of Marlboro, it is a simple answer. Full day K is what's best for kids, 100%. When you look around at other school districts that are elite like Marlboro, and you look around at the sendings to the regional, every one of them has full day K. Okay? So that's the second bullet point. The third bullet point talks about us being fiscally responsible. And why that bullet is there is because we are attaching this bond referendum vote to November 3rd, which is a general election. So we save tens of thousands of dollars by doing that. If we pick the election to be on one of the other 4 dates that are special elections, we would either have to fund the full freight or split it depending on who else was having the election as well. So we're not doing that. The board has decided to do it on Tuesday, November 3rd. The fourth one, this is the most important. So I'm going to have a slide later on that's going to show you the specific tax impact for an average household. But we have debt from previous referendums that is set to expire in July of 2019. And what we are going to do is we are going to structure the debt, the new debt, to replace the old debt so that really you're going to see there's only 1 year of an $80 increase for the average household. Last but certainly not least, and this is part of what Cindy just mentioned, that by doing it through a referendum, we are eligible for 40% of the eligible costs. If we would do this piecemeal, we would get nothing back. Coupled with the fact that our architect has projected that if we did this piecemeal, you would pay, I think the number was 1.66% as opposed to 1.0% to do it in small chunks. There's absolutely advantages to bigger scaled projects, not only for the costs of the projects, but also for the costs associated with our professionals as well, Because if we did things piecemeal, it would cost us more money. How you doing? Okay. So what are the priority capital projects that we are attempting to address? Hi, Jen. How are you? At Defino, we have the single pane windows. We have the HVAC, which will include air conditioning in classrooms, electrical panel boards and feeders, the fire alarm system, the water heater, and the automatic temperature control main panel. A question that has come up, and Sin, maybe you can help me with this, with specifics, maybe. The question was, well, why does, what does the air conditioning matter? When we looked at the total costs, when the board looked at the costs with HVAC, it was about 20% difference, wasn't it, Sin?
Something like that.
Okay. It was about a 20% difference to have the air conditioning piece, just as opposed to simply doing the heating elements and then having the other portions replaced. So it really, if we're going to address it for 20%, it really makes sense to address these needs for our children. This September, our buildings were upwards of mid-90s, literally. And that could happen at the end of May into June. We have hot buildings. Hot buildings, not a lot of airflow.
The other thing with that is that you would be paying for an engineer to design this once, not twice, because you're going to put it all in, you're putting it in, and if you would leave out the air conditioning, then you want to ever put it back in, then you'd have to pay the engineer to design it again to go in and do it. This way, you're only paying for them once.
Excellent. Okay. That's Defino. Dugan. Okay. So we have the HVAC, the fire alarm system, and the automatic temperature control main panel. We had heating issues at Dugan in the past that have been addressed. We did work this summer, and we've tested it, so that's not going to be up here. And it's important to remember that all of these were the most important big-ticket 9 items. Morel, we have windows, HVAC, the electrical panel boards and feeders, the fire alarm system, the water heater, and the automatic temperature control main panel. Robertsville, the windows, HVAC, boiler, pumps, and expansion tank, the electrical panel boards, feeders, main switchboard, the fire alarm system, the water heater, and the automatic temperature control main panel. Asher Holmes, we have the windows, HVAC, boiler, pumps, and expansion tank, main electrical distribution panel boards and feeders, the fire alarm, and the automatic temperature control main panel. Old Middle, we have the windows, HVAC, boilers, pumps, tank, expansion tank, electrical panel boards, feeders, fire alarm, the generator is special to middle, and then the automatic temperature control main panel. Question comes up, how come nothing at Memorial? Memorial was built in 2003. It is our newest building. It simply had no 9s. It had nothing of priority that needed to be addressed, because what we addressed were the most important things that needed to be addressed in our school district. Abbott.
I just wanted to raise a point here in terms of the HVAC and actually the overall dollars. I think you said it was about a 20% difference to add the air conditioning, roughly, ballpark. But if we go through with this and doing it the way we're doing it, that 20% really becomes 12% because we're getting 40% back over the total project. So the real way to look at it is for 12% more, you're getting air conditioning on top of the heating. And the other factor I think we have to consider too is even when we're looking at the interest is going to be paid on 60% of that 26 million instead of 100% because again, we're getting 40% so-called, rebate. So I think it's important to kind of just throw that out there as well.
Thanks, Craig. So, Abbott, we're looking to transform it from a half-day program to a full day. Now, questions that come up about Abbott, and there was a lot of questions. A, can't you fit the kids into the buildings? This comes up frequently. So when this first initially came as a discussion point, Board of Education looked at me as the educational leader, and they said, Dr. Hibbs, go forth and research. So we really tried to figure out all the different scenarios that may or may not work. So one of the first ones we looked at was existing open space. Mr. Madari brings up a point frequently that we're down about 800 children-ish from previous years, from our height. Why do you simply not have enough space? It doesn't make sense. There's a very simple answer. Over the course of the years, we have different layers of special education. Those rooms did not exist in the same capacity 8 to 10 years ago. Now that they do, we have other rooms other than homerooms that are being used and have to be used. We have self-contained rooms, we have resource rooms, we have all kinds of different rooms that in buildings are being utilized. The space is simply not there. If the space was there, what I would have said to the board is, board, my recommendation, we have X number of rooms, we have plenty. We have to figure out a transition plan to figure out, can the addition of kindergartners back into our elementary schools, can it be sustained? Can we look at the kitchens? Can we look at space? Can we look at all the different factors? That argument or that direction stopped when we realized that space is simply not there. It's not. Then we took a look at our middle schools. Middle schools, our two, have grades 6 through 8. We looked at possibly, could we take 5th grade out of the elementary, transition it to the middle school, and then that would open up a grade level so that now you would have grades K through 4 at your elementaries. That on the surface sounded like a fantastic idea until we realized that the capacity at middle was around 1260 and the capacity of Memorial is about 990, and that would take you at least 200 to 300 children over capacity in each building, which we could not do. Once we got through all of the different venues, there was really only one last way that we could address this issue and have it work without building. And what we could have done, which I did not support and would not recommend, is to take your existing class sizes at your elementary schools at grades 1, 2, and 3 and simply obliterate them. Ignore our historical position on class size, ignore best practice, ignore research, and say, we are going to open up enough rooms to hold kindergarten, and class sizes at 1, 2, and 3 will go upwards of 30, which is horrific for children. That was the only way we could have made that happen. So what it came down to was, in my opinion, a horrific decision, or what the board has decided to do, which is to try to enable Abbott to turn from a half day, which our children deserve, to a full day hub. And that's how we got to where we are right now. That will include about 28 classrooms. It will include a cafeteria / multi-purpose room, and it will renovate the existing common areas. And I really talked about this, so I'm going to go to the map. A question that was raised, even I think it was today, at the president's PTA, PTO, and scope, was, well, why are you doing a cafetorium? And it's essentially right in the middle. Why aren't you doing both a cafeteria and a gym? And I couldn't remember the cost, but I knew that would be millions more to do that. That was the reason why. So this will function not only as the cafeteria, but also the gym. And much like Memorial, it would, we don't use it necessarily as a gym, but it would be a cafetorium-like. It would not be, it would have a dual function. So we would have enough space to obviously house all of our children at once. There would be periods where children eat, and the other periods would be utilized for gym classes. This is going to be 2 stories right here. Okay. Abbott is interesting because there's a tremendous amount of wetlands around the building. We had to design this, the architect had to design this in such a way as to honor that and make sure that we were building in the right way. That is going to be 2 stories. We are not building onto the existing building envelope here because we could never have classes operate at the same time as building over children. The other part is the renovation, which is right here. If you've ever been in Abbott, it's essentially a very small common room that will transition into a media center. Okay? And that's the proposed additions to the Abbott Early Learning Center. So, what do you need to know? And Mr. Marshall really hit on this, the nail right on the head. The total amount of the referendum is $46,642,000, approximately, almost $47 million. The infrastructure / capital improvements that we talked about at 6 out of the 8 buildings, that totals $26,300,000. Now, of that $26,300,000, we are eligible for 40% because the New Jersey Department of Education has said that we have eligible costs there. So we will get back through debt service aid approximately $10,520,000 funded by the state of New Jersey. That is for the infrastructure and capital improvements. Now, when it comes to Abbott, the Abbott addition will cost $20,342,000, but it only has an eligible cost of $140,000. Now, the reason why is that we don't have unhoused children, and the state has said that the only eligible costs that they will agree to will be the renovation of the media center area. So that renovation will cost $350,000. We are eligible for 40% of that, and that's where the $140,000 comes into play. So your $10,520,000 adds to your $140,000 to be a total eligible cost of $10,660,000. It's important to note, because I get this question a lot too, Dr. Hibbs, if this referendum is not successful, we can take that $10 million and we can do some projects, right? You could do the boiler at Asher, or you could do the feeder panels. The answer is no. In order to have that money, you have to pass the referendum. That's just simply the way the game is played. Okay, so what is it going to cost you? Okay, the average assessed home in Marlboro right now is $465,000. The way that we have figured out how to structure this debt, because there's debt that's coming off in July of 2019, is that for the first 3 years, you will see a static change in your referendum tax. Currently, the average home pays $306 right now. So it'll be still $306 and $306 and $306. That fourth year, on an average home that's worth $465,000, you will see an $80 increase. After that fourth year, you will see a decrease in referendum debt down to about $175. So what that means, and now we're talking referendum debt. That's all that, as Dr. Hibbs, I can speak to you here now as. I'm not talking about anything that the township would levy or raise. We're not talking about other school taxes. We're talking about the debt from the referendum that would be generated. So what that means, though, is that for $80 in year 4, you will have a full-day kindergarten for our children, and you can address over $26 million worth of renovations that are absolutely necessary. 100%. You know, I can't tell you which way to vote. I can present to you my opinion on the fact that I really do feel that full-day K is 100% what Marlboro needs. I can tell you my opinion. I'm a dad of 3. That if I were looking around at a school district and a school district had half-day K, where would I look if I had children that were growing? You'd have to really be in love with Marlboro to make that choice when you could go to Manalapan or Howell or Freehold and have full-day K. Our KCP costs $5,000 per year. So for my 3 children, I would have paid $15,000. Or, as Mr. Marshall and I were talking about last night, you could have paid your $80 increase in year 4, and you're done. I can't stand before you and say that this will raise your property values. Do I think it will make a difference? I do, but I can't tell you what that would mean. I can tell you strictly that if my 3 children, Sophia, Dominic, and Isabella, were blessed enough to go to Marlboro, I would want them in a full-day program. Every day of the week and twice on Sundays, 100%. Okay? So that's what it's going to cost you. What is debt service aid? Debt service aid is a partial payment of a bond from the state based upon eligible costs, which we've talked about. And that eligible cost was the $10,660,000 that we were getting back. The eligible cost really was the overall bigger number, but that's what we get back. The state then pays the aid annually over the life of the bond to cover a portion of the cost of the principal and interest due on the bonds each year. We had talked about the fact that we are going to get 40% of the eligible project costs back. We've received official notice from the Department of Education, and it will not be given unless the bond proposal is approved by the voters. So what does it mean? And I just essentially hit this point. For 1 year of a small tax increase of $80, you can have full day K, and you can have almost $26 million, over $26 million of our priority infrastructure and capital projects addressed. One other important point is I want to note we have not ignored our priority projects. The board has not ignored. They 100% have addressed projects and continue to address projects every year through our budget. You know, last year we put half of a roof on Old Middle. It was $1 million. This year we're going to do the other half. We have done paving. We have done numerous improvements that we put into our budget. For years, this board has taken extreme pride in not looking at referendums, not looking at coming to you for approval for things that really that they felt should be included in a budget. Same has for roofs. They've always been as part of our general operating budget.
Correct.
This is beyond that. It just is. You know, and the question of things that are 50 years old, well, how do we not know? You know, it's a lot like at home. If you have a hot water heater, there are people that will replace that hot water heater at 6 or 7 years because they don't want to walk in any day and find the water has ruined everything. There are people that will 100% play it to the moment. There are people that will play it to the end and the water is there. We have had systems that literally we have kept operational through proper maintenance, through hard work, but now with all of those 5 different reasons that we talked about, the 40%, the fact that it's time. This is the time to address these issues and hopefully get 40% back of the eligible costs.
Dr. Hibbs, I just want to please add to the public as well. We had children in jackets last year in one of our buildings with the heat failed.
We did.
The handwriting's on the wall, which is why we went out for the comprehensive study, and so the board could properly to deliberate and make the proper decisions and protect the safety and security of our students.
Absolutely.
Which is why we're doing both at the same time now.
We had heat fail at Dugan. Absolutely.
I just wanted to add, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that all of the security enhancements that have been done have also come out of the operating budget. There was not special financing that was
Correct.
arranged for that. So just to kind of reiterate what Dr. Hibbs said, that we are doing a lot of projects out of the operating budget.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it's important also to note that people think, like Dr. Hibbs, you pointed out about planning for the future and stuff and budgeting for those types of things. School districts do not have the ability to put this much money away anywhere to do something like this. We're not allowed to. So it's a problem.
Yeah.
So the only way you can do this on big ticket items is for a referendum.
Yep. Just so you understand, we only have the ability of raising taxes, barring certain exceptions, roughly 2% of the tax levy. And at the end of each year, we can put money that's left over into reserve accounts, into an emergency reserve, into a legal reserve, into a maintenance reserve, into a capital reserve. But at the end of the day, you are not talking anything about what you would need to make these buildings have what they now systemically need. And one of the things that I'm very proud to be a part of, and as this board is, when you drive around Marlboro and look at our schools now, I hope you notice that they look prettier. They really do. If you drive by Old Middle, look at the fence. It's brand new. And it might not seem like a lot, but it used to be rusted and disgusting. It's brand new. When you ride by the front of DeFino, okay, there are plants and there are bushes. And this might sound silly, but you'll see where I'm going in a moment. You know, when I first got here, that was a dirt path that literally children would walk through, and it was not pretty. It's hard when I think we are pretty to look and say, well, why do you need $26 million? I've been in Old Middle. That auditorium is beautiful. You're right, it is. And we take pride in that. We take pride in what we do, and we work hard. However, you know, it's just like living at home. You know, I live in South Jersey, about an hour and 20 minutes south. I think it was in June when I had that mini tornado that almost came through my backyard in East Greenwich, blew my roof completely off. I have to address that now. If I don't, there's going to be problems. And what this board is committed to is children. Because if Asher's boiler would have gone during the year and we couldn't have fixed it, where are we going to put those 500-ish kids? What are we going to do at Old Middle if something systemically goes wrong and we have 1,200 children that are displaced? We can't educate them here. We can't put them in a memorial. We can't take them to the rec center. we're trying to be proactive in looking at all these things that really need to be addressed. And at the end of the day, you know, to me, the selling point is, it's the $80 in the 4th year. It's really what it is. So when is it scheduled? It's scheduled on Tuesday, November 3rd. Polls open at 6. They close at 8. The second paragraph talks about when the referendums can take place, but we're doing that on the general election.
To save money.
To save money, yep, absolutely. Key communicators, I have a list I counted just before I came in here of about 17 people that are willing to go out and knock on doors. If anybody here, Bianca, you're on there. If anybody else is interested, we're going to have a meeting in the next week or so to talk about talking points. We're physically not allowed to do that. I can't walk out and say, hi, I'm Eric Michael Hibbs. Please vote yes for our referendum. We desperately need it. I'm not allowed to, and neither are the board members. So we physically can't do that. We can just prevent, just the facts, ma'am. And that's what we're doing. And where to get more information. If you go right to our homepage, there's a referendum tab. This is cumulative, so we've had the September 29th workshop meeting already. We had the first informational night last night. Edwin was there? No one else was there, right? Just Edwin? We have Thursday the 22nd and Monday the 26th. And what will happen before those days is that we are going to do a mailer to the entire town. There'll be, for every household there'll be one mailer for a registered voter. Not multiple. Did I say that correctly?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then I am going to be visiting with Cindy every PTA/O meeting in October. And then we have the 6th and 20th to get the word out as well. And then we're blasting information home. We have it on Facebook. And I think that's it. Okay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. And just once again, to Mr. Marshall's point, the total of the referendum, that'll be the line item you see on the ballot, it's a total we have to ask for, but the total tax impact will be minus the 40 plus 10.1066, right?
Yes.
10.66 million. The tax impact will be minus that 10.66 million. We can't ask for the 10.66 million less, so you have to see the total figure. Once that gets approved, if it gets approved, then we get the state aid back. Correct.
You got it.
I'm going to open up public session. Public session, we answer the questions at the end of public session. If during public session, once we start answering questions, you have follow-up questions, they can be asked again at our second public session later on in the meeting. It's open to any item you wish us to vote on, including the referendum. So anybody from the public have any questions? Sir?
Make sure you sign in, please.
I think you just sign the
Sign in.
clipboard.
That's okay,
As
you're
well
fine.
as your name and address at the microphone, please.
My name is Michael Ho. Very nice presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
The question I have is, you may have addressed this before. Why did you not want to break the referendum into 2 parts? Because like I said, our neighbors have already been talking about this referendum. I'm just curious. Capital improvements are obviously the no-brainer that has to get done. I think the question ends up being the full-day kindergarten issue.
Okay.
Thoughts to why
Yeah.
break it into 2 different
We'll do it
referendums?
at the end.
Yeah. So what we, so what we'll do is Michael, right?
Yes.
So what we'll do is I write down every question, and then when everyone's asked their questions, I'll go through and I'll answer it all for you.
And the other question I had was, what is the operating cost? I know there's capital cost for the, what is the additional operating cost to have teachers year round?
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public have, sure. Sure, ma'am.
She's my neighbor.
I just need the microphone.
Name and address, please.
On there?
No, you have to state it.
Both.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Both.
Abby
I forgot.
Surratt, 16 Eagle Road, Marlboro, New Jersey. Okay, so first off, I agree that I think it should have been 2 parts of the referendum because I see a cost of adding the full-day kindergarten to increasing my taxes. Now, my house is apparently assessed at higher than the average house in Marlboro, which is kind of crazy because of where I live. But whatever. So you add to that the cost of the teachers, the cost that, I had to not work because my kids had half-day kindergarten, of which my kids are doing very well in school, and of the waste. I understand that you're being fiscally responsible, but in previous years, there have been very irresponsible fiscal, and, where did that that money could have been saved all along. It should never have been spent. So I have a different way of looking at it. I can't agree with the full day kindergarten. You know, the infrastructure I get, and it's not gonna increase, because you just have the one tax, and it's not gonna increase my taxes. But I'm hard pressed to say that I'm gonna go and pay the teachers and all the things when you've wasted money over several years in Marlboro K through 8 district. So I'll write down that, and then
Thank
thank
you.
you for hearing me.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to address the board on any item?
What we wasted money?
Well, that's all. Sir?
We waste money on. Answers. We're gonna answer her. Go tell her you're missing her answers. Tell her we're gonna,
Mike just said that.
Yeah.
hers was more statement, I think, than a question.
Edwin Madari,
She's my neighbor.
2 Regal Drive, Montgomery, New Jersey 07751. President, board members, and the administration, thank you. Appreciate giving me the opportunity to speak up. I have 3 questions regarding today's agenda, and having heard the referendum once again today, I might want to add something. So I'm believing giving advance information, so I always send my questions ahead of time for the record and for the public out here. At least the president and the administration knew of my questions before I came up here. My first question is regarding the financial and business operations matters, items 1, 2, and 3. How other public like me are supposed to understand the justification for the increases from $5,040 to $6,020 on item 1, and $578,280.70 to $590,180.70 in item 2. Similarly, $590, $180.70 to $608,966.20 in item 3. And for the item 3 is the phrase failing sub-base areas. Is that a technical term supposed to explain a professional what it means? If so, then yes, I will refer to a technical expert, and I'll try to get the explanation myself. But my question still remains. I'm not questioning the amounts, nor the increases, but want to understand how the public is supposed to make sense out of these 3 items with the information provided in the agenda. My next question, after rereading it, from what I've sent you, I'm going to be decreasing the amount of the questions. I'll state it to only the last sentence. Is this an increase or a decrease in the salaries? And why is this change, and why now? And my last question regarding the policy 5756 transgender students. Why is the board authorizing the superintendent or designate to question a student's asserted gender instead of leaving that responsibility with the student or parent or both, as stated in the previous sentence in the same policy? Why stick finger in a sticky situation and set up the administration for failure? There was one of our presidents who famously followed, don't ask, don't tell. If that works, leave it at that. But I do not believe either the administration or the superintendent or anybody should be put in a sticky situation of having to cross-check or verify if somebody wants to come in a skirt or a lipstick or shave off and have a beard next day. Knock yourself off. That's what I think, and I think that administration should not be set up for the failure. Now, going back to the referendum, I've heard everything that was stated yesterday, and I've heard a little more, I think, today. The numbers I stated yesterday in the meeting, that 6K is from the Department of Education website, and the numbers that I've stated as less than 5,000K is from your own website, sir. And we can nickel and dime between 800 or 1,000 difference. Yes, my income in my own lifetime, as my income increased, my expenses increased. Yes, if there is a room, that will be used. I understand that. but that requires a real hard look at it and go back at it. 800 is not a small number. I don't believe there are 800 classrooms that just magically got rearranged, or there are 800 special ed children that need to be addressed. So once again, I'm going on record that yes, I do support full-day kindergarten, but there are many ways to skin a cat, and the approach that is taken by, I do not know to say the board or the administration, is not right. And yep, if it is $5,000 versus $80, yeah, sure. One person pays it's $5,000, the entire town pays, probably it's $1. But again, it's not the question of $1 or it's not a question of 5,000. It's the question of being responsible. This town has been prided, and I've been taking pride in being responsible and innovative. And I've been recommending and requesting to look at innovative ways to come up with different solutions or any solutions. And on that note, from today's summary, I have not seen any facts or figures or maintenance records or insurance information or a plan going forward. How long will this last? What's the guarantee that 5 years down the road, I won't be standing here and speaking against another some odd million number of dollars? And it's not that what state is giving them $10 million or $10.5 million, but the town is stuck with $30 million, and that's a fact. Thanks, sir. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the public wish to address the board on any item? Sure.
Good evening, Matt Myerson on Hollywood Road.
Thank you.
I'd just like to know what the expected time frame is for implementation of everything. If the referendum is approved, when we expect full-day kindergarten, and how many teachers the board is expecting to have to hire to provide.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to address the board on any item? Yes.
Hi, good evening. I'm Wei Ewan. I live on 10 Gerard Street in Marlboro. Just a couple of questions about the referendum, or related to the referendum. I know, you guys are talking about budgeting, and we don't have the money for this construction. And yes, I agree that there should be two different referendums between the Abbott addition and the infrastructure upgrades. But I guess one question I have is, where did the money come from for all the construction that was done on all the elementary schools, the entranceways? I mean, that has to be millions of dollars. Are you saying that that was already budgeted in? I felt that that was a reaction to a lot of the security problems that we were experiencing, shootings in schools and things like that. But correct me if I was wrong. So that was one of my questions. Where did that money come from, and was that in the budget, or somewhere else? My other question is, you were talking about that in the fourth year, so these bonds are going to expire in 3 years?
2019.
2019, and these bonds cost every taxpayer $306 a year. So if this doesn't pass, and we don't purchase new bonds for this, for these additional costs, does that mean that our taxes would go down to $306? Because the bonds would expire, we would have no more bonds that we would be paying again. Is that correct?
We'll answer at the end of the public session. We answer all questions at the end.
All right, and that's it. And one more thing, I don't know if you guys consider as far as maintenance, when you install the heating and the air conditioning, now your utility costs are going to increase, because now you're going to have utility costs for air conditioning in addition to heating. So I don't know if that's been considered.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else in the public wish to address the board on any item? Seeing no, sir?
Okay. As far as the question goes from Michael about why it was not broken into two parts, what we did was we took, oh, there's Michael. That's okay, no problem. Michael, your question about why we broke it, or why the board did not break it into two parts, it's a really simple one. Being that this is the first referendum that we've put together, the board's put together, our professionals encouraged us to go with one question. That's the best answer I can give you. As far as the cost of the teachers,
It's still too far away for me to give you a very accurate number of how many specific teachers we would absolutely need, because we still have to gather specific data on the number of children. We know approximately why we're building 28 classrooms, because what we're attempting to do is we're attempting to build a school so that we don't have to do things over again. So when we looked at 28 classrooms, it's not just 28, it's not 28 homerooms. You would look at a computer lab, you would look at the music room, the art room, there's all those rooms that would be there, small group instruction rooms, rooms for OT, PT, all the normal rooms that our other schools would have. So that information will be forthcoming at a later time. But when the 28 classrooms is not 28 homerooms. But the board 100% made decisions to put the 28 on, looking at the fact that we had roughly 6,000 students, and that despite what our demography, our study has shown, we are actually up students, and we're climbing. So the board wanted to be responsive to that and to make sure that at the end of the day, we didn't build a school that was simply too small, and that people would come later on and say, Dr. Hibbs, why did you build a school that now doesn't fit the kids that we have? Abby mentioned about the two parts. Abby's not here, right?
No.
I'll talk to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll speak to that. So it's funny because when we have our budget discussions, and I'm so happy there's so many people out here tonight, because this is a lot of people. When we have our budget discussions, it's usually that gentleman sitting there, and maybe the guy working the working the video recorder, and nobody else. If you come, I welcome you to come this year when we do our budget discussions. You'll see a board which doesn't sit here and say yes to everything this gentleman, that young lady brings to us. And we usually beat them over the head pretty good, and we do our due diligence. What's the percentage of costs that we actually have control over now?
About 11%.
The board actually only has control of 11% of its costs. Everything else is fixed items. As far as who we pay what, those are all negotiated contracts, taken one at a time through the state negotiation process. It's done through a process that every board has to go through to get where they get to. Sometimes we negotiate a few months, sometimes we negotiate for 22 months or 2 or 3 years to get through a contract. And I've been here for that. So I've been here for a 22-month negotiated contract, and I sat in that committee. So this board doesn't take its budget lightly. I would wish I would know where people think that we may have wasted money on, but I didn't hear the exact thing, so I can't comment to it. I'll just say that I could say for every single board member sitting next to me tonight, and every single board member that sat next to me in the last 8 years that I've been on this board, nobody sat here and said, oh, what can we buy next? That doesn't happen here. I welcome you to come during budget time and see how we go through every part of the budget, and you'll see us going back and forth to the administration over what they would like to have and what the board will let them have.
Yep.
That well said, sir?
You couldn't have said it any better. I've been here for 2 years, and I can honestly say that this board does not waste money, 100%. During budget, we will come in and I can't just say, hey, board, can I please have 12 buses, and there's no discussion over it. It's how many buses do you need? Why do you need these buses? There's quantifications that are there, and this board is very responsive to the taxpayer, 100%. And that is a consistent theme. And if you doubt any of that veracity, go back and check out our videos.
It's months. It's months of.
Yeah, it's all online. I mean, they are fiscally prudent and responsible, 100%.
And I'll tag on to that, the construction that the schools, the young lady mentioned, that was not a reactive process at all. That was a process, and I can't talk about specific security, I will never do that here, but I will tell you that there were committees, there were professionals brought in over months and months of discussion on the best ways to do those construction projects at our buildings.
Well, Mike, I mean, to what she said, I understand where you're coming from, because it was, don't deny the fact. We had the other side, the mayor come into our town, we brought people into our building over here, and it was an uproar. We had a lot of people in the audience that were demanding that we do something. And yes, it was some reaction to what had happened, but it was weeks of discussions after that reaction, that gut reaction of how can we improve it. And we had the money in maintenance. You got the money out of our maintenance. Where'd you get the money to? We got the money at.
Well, answer the question. We asked where the money.
The money actually came from, it's called excess surplus.
Excess surplus.
We had, when the budget came, what happens is excess surplus is created when you have money that's left from the previous budget year, and you are required to use it for tax relief the next year. It just so happened that the stars all lined up perfectly and everything worked. We had the money available to do it from excess surplus, basically because we saved money with the increases in the health benefits.
But Cindy, I think hit the nail on the head. The stars aligned perfectly, and that's how that could have been done.
Isn't that the-
Because I think in,
There's a tax relief.
Yeah, we had $3 million to use, and when you have something like that, you have to look at it, and something of that large amount of money, because you have to do it for one-time things, and that's why it was easy to do and utilize it towards the vestibule project, because if you would put that $3 million and put it in to fund your regular budget, okay, then the following year, you've got a hole of $3 million to make it up. And that's extremely difficult to make up. And if to reiterate what we talked about earlier this year when we were doing this budget, we've been going on, and I was saying, you're gonna hit this hole, and this year we did. And you had to fund it. But this board is very diligent and they go through things very thoroughly. They get a budget binder 4 inches thick with all the details about what we're spending on and why it's there.
Or what you're asking for.
Well, exactly.
yes.
Another thing is, like, when he came to us with the 28 classrooms, and I can't speak for everybody, for my opinion, why we couldn't cram them into other schools was, we have housing developments like Camelot on 79 that we don't get any tax dollars from that, Camelot. And there's, how many students do we have?
44.
44 students from Camelot are in our district, and we get so far. And we get, at $13,000 apiece, we get no tax dollars. The township gave the builders a sweetheart deal, a pilot program, pay in lieu of taxes, so they get $400,000 from the builder, and we get no tax dollars. I don't know why you're shaking your head, Edwin, that's the God's honest truth. We get no money from.
You can't go back over.
I wish you wouldn't go there.
Well, I'm going there because we get no tax
Go back and
dollars.
forth.
What I'm saying is, we have to fund the children, and now we have to put the kids, they're gonna keep coming into our district, in my opinion, and we have to know that we have places for our children. So we need to have the space, the kindergarten.
Absolutely.
Just to piggyback on that, it's not so much also the 400,000 that we are not receiving, it's the probably close to 600,000 that it's costing the school district to educate those children that are just in that one complex. And let's not forget, there are other complexes that are scheduled to be built, which undoubtedly will have more children, and I don't know what those tax arrangements are, but the way things have looked in the past and the way they're looking now, we probably won't get that money either.
Well, we can't go back and forth.
There's another
You can't-
public
It's
session
another
at the
public
end.
session, I'm sorry. Can't go back and forth. Sorry, you want to continue?
Sure. Way asked if it doesn't pass and we don't purchase bonds, will the $306 expire? That is accurate. And that $306 after the third year, right?
We make our last debt service payment July 15th, 2019. So 1920 will be the last payment if we do nothing more.
That will expire. And the question of the utilities, our professionals are forecasting that with the higher efficiency items that we are putting in, it will offset the cost of electricity for the air conditioning. So there won't be a big rise and there won't be a big fall. It will roughly stay the same.
Plus the window. The windows also as well, better insulated.
Absolutely. Well, everything will be high efficiency.
Yeah.
100%.
Edwin's question.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Matt's
Okay,
first, though.
okay.
Matt asked about expected timeframes. Okay, let's talk HVAC. So in order for us to be very prudent and careful, and this is where sometimes school districts get themselves into trouble, is if they bite off more of the apple than they should. So what we have looked at is a 4-year tiered plan where we're doing roughly half a school per summer. And the reason why we would do it that way is that there is no real chance then that we will not be able to open up that building in September. School districts have sometimes tried to take on too much, and you can't open up if you're literally all opened up, which is what that project does. It digs into every part of of the entire outside envelope, replacing unit ventilators, replacing systems. So we would do that in such a way so as it would be essentially half per year. As far as full day K, I mean, you are building a 2-story building, you are building a cafetorium, and you're renovating roughly the insides. It's at least a year plus, at least. That's the best forecast I can give you. Could it happen in a year? Cindy, it could happen in a year. No? Year and a half? There we go. 2 years? Okay.
2 years.
Milk won't be built for 2 years.
You what?
You're saying kindergarten won't be built for,
We have never actually, I don't think, said 2 full years.
Not 2 full years, but it's going to depend on the timing when we could get started. So,
We were hoping to start the 2017-18 year, correct? That was our
that was
first
the initial.
expected.
That's hopeful. That's hopeful.
Okay. To Edwin. So Edwin had questions about the line items in the first one. So number one, there was a change in the Camp Oakhurst, and it was roughly $1,000, $20 less than $1,000.
district placement.
Yep, for an out-of-district placement. I think the question for the second one,
Negotiate a contract.
Do you want my notes?
No,
Negotiate
you
a
can-
contract, right?
now you-
Those prices.
Yeah, if you want, I can
Yeah, I went back to the
explain.
email. Thank you. Okay, so Edwin, I'm going off of your email because it's easier. So the tuition changed. So essentially, that was the first answer to your question. Items 2 and 3, we are amending a previous award. So we deleted $58,522, and in 3, we're awarding an additional $18,785.50 due to the additional work that was needed to be done at the transportation depot. And when it does say due to the failing subbase, it just, there wasn't enough there wasn't enough of the
The subbase was, because it's made of clay, there's a lot of clay down there, so they needed to shore it up more, so it was failing. So they brought in, it took
More.
additional fill to do
And had they
that.
not have done that, Sin, what would have happened?
We would have wasted a whole lot of money because that asphalt wouldn't have held up.
Okay. Question 2, were the salaries,
Go to the next one, sir. My question was, how is the public supposed to make
So,
sense
oh.
out of this agenda?
So the only thing I can say to you, Edwin, is I know they do the best job as they can to put the information into the agenda, but I could,
yeah, Mark?
Can
Can you weigh in on that one? So number 3, so when I read number 3,
Yeah, I mean, typically, the resolution doesn't have a full explanation in the body of the resolution as to what it is, and that's why we have the public meeting, so the public can come and ask questions and get whatever clarification or explanations they need. Usually, like I said, the resolution wouldn't have a full explanation like Ms. Barragu just gave on what the subbase is and what it means and the impact and that sort of thing. That's the purpose of the public meeting.
I'll just add to that, Mark, that I know in the 3.5 years that I've sat in the president's seat, I haven't received maybe 1 or 2 emails in that whole time, someone asking me for any kind of clarification, so I just...
And that's the other point. Anybody could certainly email, when the agenda comes out, email the administration. You could do it here at a meeting like you have, or just simply email the administration with the clarification you're seeking, and I'm sure an answer would be provided in a timely manner.
there is repetition, Edwin, in personnel matters, and the reason why is we settled a contract that went back.
No, sir, that was not my question. I sent it in the email, and I corrected myself saying that regarding number 2, only one sentence. Is this an increase or decrease in salaries, and why is this changed, and why not? That's all the question. Rest of them, I deleted it because
Yes.
I read the agenda
It's an,
after I
it's,
sent the email.
it's an increase. Yeah, Edwin, I appreciate your passion. You also need to understand that you're saying that email today, the day of a meeting, and that I have a full-time job, as does Mrs. Barrago. I'm happy to get any information to the public that they need, but I need you to understand that I can't stop what I'm doing in the moment and to dig in. So I'll always get you the answers that you need, not a problem. So yes, it was a negotiated,
It was, his responses were mailed back at 5 o'clock. I
Yeah.
have it right here in front of me.
Yeah.
Okay, he just wanted a clarification. So, yes, Edwin, there are increases, there were negotiated contracts, as I spoke before. The board goes through many negotiated contracts. You sat in the board when we did negotiated contracts. So the answer is yes, and there were increases.
Definitely.
And they're being done at this time because the contract was just settled.
And we just, last meeting is when we,
Just, yes.
we ratified it. Well, I voted on it, what do you call it? Ratified.
The last question. With the transgender students, we utilize a policy company called Strauss Esme. Strauss Esme, what they do is they look at New Jersey code, both 6A and 18A, and they make recommendations based upon that code. Based upon legal advice, we are advised to have this policy, and we are advised to engage in these conversations if this situation ever does come up with a parent. Sir?
Well said.
Okay. And when, as far as everything else goes, I firmly respect you. I really do. I respect your passion. I respect the fact that you ask questions. I'll always get you whatever answers that I think I can or that you ask of me. I will always gather information. There is no, yeah, the board as well. There's literally no other way to do this. I can't be innovative with kindergartners in this aspect. I can be innovative with kindergartners in plenty of other aspects. They utilize iPads. They actually are doing coding at the Abbott Early Learning Center. But to think that we could distance learn with kindergartners and go from the waist up, like you mentioned yesterday, is just, it's simply not a reality.
I checked it's modular.
We did. We absolutely did check into modular. Modular did not save us any money in the long run. It ended up being cheaper on some ends, but not on others. So really, we have, this board really has done its due diligence. I fully understand that you don't agree. I do. And that's, I get that.
I just want to add, and I said this last week at all, and I'm so happy everybody's out here asking questions. That's what the board really wants to see, whether you're for or against. I want you here asking questions. We want you here asking questions. But you're here now because the buzz is in town. But the different ways to do full-day kindergarten, that goes back months and months and years of meetings. 2 years of meetings that we discussed it here. And Dr. Hibbs came back to the board and reported, and we asked him to check on something else. He came back to the board and reported.
Yeah.
So it's not as if we haven't looked at every little different angle and do we think about this, maybe think about that. We really tried and to look at every single way, but to build.
Yeah.
Go into classroom sizes.
On how much we actually do?
No. About classroom sizes, that if we, did you go in that? Okay.
During the presentation.
Okay.
I know you don't know me really well, but how I work as a leader is this. When I'm asked a question, I fully research it. I would never, ever, ever come back and make a recommendation to build if we had room. I wouldn't do that. That would be fiscally irresponsible. It would be horrific, and this board would hold me accountable, and I have a mortgage and 3 children. And I would never jeopardize my career by making such a foolish move. There's really only one way to do this, and that is to build. That's the only option, aside from class sizes, like Mrs. Dean just mentioned.
Right, and again, I guess you might have touched on it, but not only do we have classrooms, we have resource rooms. We have
We've all, yeah,
so classrooms
absolutely.
that all have special needs for this, and the other thing that we
100%.
didn't have maybe so many years ago.
Yes.
And every year that demand gets greater.
Absolutely.
So-
And needs change from year to year.
Yeah.
And let's imagine that it was even close. What would happen then if it, and it wasn't close, but let's imagine that it was close and we cram these kindergarten kids in, and then we go up. What are we doing then?
And they still don't have a gym, they still don't have a library, they still don't have a cafeteria, they don't have any of those necessities to make it a
They do not.
full-day kindergarten
100%.
in the building.
100%. This is when you talk about a systems process, this is the only way that full day K will or could occur in Marlboro. You have to build.
I'm sorry, Greg.
Okay.
Yeah, in addition to that, I think you really need to understand as well that the board and Dr. Hibbs and administration did not work in a vacuum in coming up, and I know it's been said, but I really want to hammer this home. We did not work in a vacuum. We had engineers that we consulted with, we have architects that we consult with, and we gave them the different options that have been recommended by members of the public in terms of alternative ways to come up with a full-day kindergarten. And aside from all of the learning benefits that we rely on Dr. Hibbs for to analyze for us, from a financial standpoint, this was the most cost-effective way. And I just needed to say that because I just don't know that everybody's fully understanding that. So it's great that you're asking, did you consider options? And rather than assuming that we didn't, we certainly did. And there were probably at least 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. This was the best in terms of the children and their learning experience, and it was the most cost-effective way to get this done.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you.
Deb?
I just wanted to add, and Dr. Hibbs, you could go forward with this, is the educational expectations for first graders today versus even 5, 6 years ago.
Oh, my gosh.
Let alone 10.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like or not like the Common Core state standards, they are 100% more rigorous than what we've experienced in the past. For, you know, as a very general explanation, think of the past standards as very long but very narrow, not deep. So children would experience fractions in kindergarten in some way, fractions in first, fractions in second, all the way up. Now what they've done is they've taken that long and they've turned it this way to be a deep dive. So the expectation is that children they're going so much deeper into learnings. Kindergarten, first grade, you know, when we went to kindergarten was you're riding a little Batmobile around the play area and you're coloring and you're singing the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday song, whereas now kindergarten is completely rigorous. Our educational system is rigorous from top to bottom. We have an elite school district. We really do. And the difference between first grade, as Mrs. Matos just mentioned, now and 10 years ago and 20 years ago, oh, it's night and day. Brady Bunch versus Modern Family. That's all that came to me right there. It's entirely different. And look, I'm not going to tell you how to feel. I learned a long time ago, being married, that feelings are feelings. But what I will say is this, and I've said this at almost every place that I've gone. In my own school district, when they were threatening to take away full day K, we had it, and we were overcrowded. The third time, I decided that I needed to do something, and I went around with the incredible moms that existed in my town, and we blanketed about 7 different developments and a referendum that had failed by hundreds. I think it was almost 700, passed by 7 votes. That's what I feel. I practice what I preach. I really do truly believe that this is what is best for Marlboro. I really do. I'm not going to ask you to agree. And, you know, certainly you can feel how you want about the different parts. But both parts have absolute merit. They really do. Our kids deserve full day K. They really do.
And they deserve heat in the building.
They deserve heat as well. Heat is good. And we have to address both of these. And that's what Tuesday, November 3rd, is really all about.
Okay.
That's all of them,
Thank you, sir. Okay, so if you have any follow-ups, we can do that in the second public session, if you don't mind holding on a little bit. Brings us to financial and business operations matters on page 3. We have any corrections? Vicki, am I reading, please?
Financial and business operation matters. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, amended resolution, out-of-district placement case number 882 for the 2015-2016 school year. Number 2, amended resolution, change order number 2, Defino Contracting Company. Number 3, change order number 3, Defino Contracting Company. I so move.
Thank you, Vicki. Seconded by Debbie. Questions on financial and business? John, you have a question? No. Question?
I did.
Correct.
I'm just trying to understand, the change is because there was a portion of the project that was pulled out, right?
Yes.
So for the remaining parts of the project, the total is 608,966 and change, right? So when that last item goes back in,
It's not going back in. We
It's
can't
not.
put it back in. We're going to go out for a separate bid on that.
okay, so, but there will be that additional cost when that goes out, right?
Yes.
Okay, and is that the 11.9?
No.
We don't know yet.
It's a total separate bid. It's over here.
Right.
Totally separate. Could be
Okay.
a different contractor. a whole different public bid.
So the 608 or roughly 609 is not it's not the final number when we then add in that next bid, right?
It's the final for this bid.
It's the final for this bid,
For this
for this
one?
contractor,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, but the original components, then the one was taken out is going to be separate and then added on.
Not to that, no.
No, not added on to that, but.
Separate.
Another
Okay.
expense, another.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. When do we expect the time frame for that? That the one you take out?
The one I'm taking out, they're preparing it right now to get it out for bid.
When?
The engineers. Our engineers are preparing all the paperwork and all the
So that means
specifications.
it'll be out to bid and back on your desk about when?
I would hope by November 20th, you know, give or take.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jen?
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none? Cindy, please call the roll, financial.
Mrs. Ennie?
Yes.
Mrs. Cow?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf?
Yes.
Mrs. Matos?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Lolinski?
Yes, personal matters on page 5. Any changes, sir? Good. Debbie, please?
Sure. Personnel matters. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, buildings and ground staff, 2013-14 school year. 2, stipends, maintenance workers. 3, buildings and ground staff, 2014-15 school year. 4, stipends, maintenance workers. 5, buildings and ground staff, 2015-16 school year. 6, stipends, maintenance workers. I so move.
Thank you. Deb, seconded by Craig. Any discussion on personnel? Seeing none, Cindy, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennie?
Yeah.
Mrs. Cow?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mrs. Matos?
Yes.
And Mr. Lolinski?
Yes, brings us to policy development and community relations matters on page 9. Dara, do you want to read it, please?
The superintendent of schools submits the following for approval by the Board of Education. 1, first reading. I so move.
Thank you. Seconded by Robin. Discussion.
Before we go, this is on the advice of Mark. Mark was not here last week, and Mark called me on Wednesday and said, I'm recommending to all of my school districts that instead of going with option 2, you go with option 1, for the simple fact that he felt that it was better to have less constricting questions that were in there.
More flexibility.
Yes.
Okay. Question.
Mhm.
Being that we were there for the policy committee when we first read this.
Yes.
I understand it's under Mark's advice, but what we were afraid of on doing this option was that our buildings would not look the same.
Yes.
So is the fear still there on that point?
I raised that specifically to Mark.
Yeah, and if you look at the issues in option 1 that have to be addressed, they're all the same issues. It's just basically the way it's phrased. So option 2 said, the board shall, the board shall, the board shall, the board shall. Option 1 said, these are the topics you need to discuss, but it's open for case-by-case analysis as opposed to mandatory. The way it was phrased, it was, the word shall was troubling to me. The board shall allow, for instance, a boy who's transgender to use the girls' bathroom as opposed to perhaps having a separate designated bathroom that could be used by both sexes, which is what some school districts do. It didn't give you a lot of flexibility in my view. And so it's not to say you can't do that, but the way option 1 reads is that your hands aren't necessarily tied to any one particular way of handling it. And each case, obviously, is unique.
Is it kind of a may versus shall type of logic?
Yes, exactly.
And with the, even with the other one, with all the shalls, I still think it would still look different in every.
It could,
Because
yeah.
the buildings are different, and you can't have the
Every-
same accommodations at the middle schools that you do at the elementary schools. And also, it said shall if requested.
Yeah.
So it's like we would make the accommodation if they wanted it. So thank you for bringing it back. Y'all heard my stuff last week, my opinion on it, so.
And
I
every
appreciate
student
the
situation is
review.
different. Some students may not want that to be handled that way. You know what I'm
Exactly, they
saying?
might not want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But going on to that is, I keep bringing up our discussion at the committee meeting because if it's requested, that's why we have our policies written, even our medical policies are, allergy policies or this policy and that policy. We have it there and guided. It's more of a guideline for those parents. And honestly, I felt that this was lacking, that guideline. And I'm not a big shall person either. I would prefer to see
Right.
may. But I just feel, as we talk about all these policies all these years, is that we've been trying to be as transparent as possible with the guidelines and easier speech, language. And I just feel like this option was a little bit lacking on that department. I'm okay with either one because I'm sure administration would be on top of it. I'm certain. We are a very, very known district not to discriminate and so forth, and I'm sure it will be handled either way.
Yes.
So I'm okay with either option. I'm just afraid of the language for the guidelines, I guess. That's.
Gotcha.
Anyone else? Denny, please call the roll.
Mrs. Cow?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mrs. Matos?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennie?
Yes.
And Mr. Lelonsky?
Yes. I'll bring us to old business.
I have something.
Sure.
Under old business last week, Dr. Hibbs, I asked you if we were going to be able to put on the website for parents an option to click if they wanted to receive the agendas. Do you know, like parents that are no longer in the district,
Yes.
but they still want to be informed
Yes.
as their taxpayers?
Yes.
If we add that onto our
Yes.
app or onto the district,
You
you
did.
know, it's on there?
No, but it wasn't that simple. So I walked
Okay.
out, I went to Teresa. Teresa was researching with School World,
Yes, yes.
School World, and I absolutely conveyed it, and it is going to happen. It
Okay,
just
so
might not
it's
have
just,
hap-
it's a
yes.
little more in
Yeah.
detail than that.
Sometimes
Okay.
with the website, it's not as simple as just saying, hey, do this. It might need to be created.
No, I just wanted you to get back that it
You
is
can't ask
doable.
Siri?
all over it. Yeah, we have Siri. I got it.
The other old business, Michael, Cindy, I know you gave us the information on, I asked, the rec department uses our buses in the summer, and I asked for the, what we made on that. Our margin of, I know, I got it. District's earnings were 25,463. Is that minus the wear and tear on our buses and fixing them, or is this total profit, or?
Total profit.
Because I know the buses, we talked about how they take more wear and tear on them in the
They do,
summer.
because they're utilized then, too. They're utilized in the summer, but when we do the costs, we include some costs for wear and tear in that. So this is straight out profit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Old business? Okay.
You know what? For old business, Sin, is this where you want to talk about?
Old, new, doesn't matter.
Okay. I think it would be old because we've talked about this concept before. Sin, why don't you lead this discussion? Go for it.
As you may recall, in the school monitor's contract now, we have an allowance, a clause in there about having our groups who utilize our buildings pay for having a school monitor on there in the buildings. And so we worked with Liz, myself, and Rob DeLon. We worked with trying to figure out the best way, because, I mean, many users of our buildings, we don't believe there's a need for a school monitor to be on site when it's a structured setting, i.e., when you're having the Chinese school on Saturday mornings, you're having this Hindi school on Saturday morning. People come in, they go to their classrooms, they go for structure, they go for their classes and stuff and leave. But if you're having a big event, for instance, the Diwali celebration, you're having Chinese New Year, we believe when you're having, you know, a lot of people there and it's not structured and it's an open door type of thing, we believe you need at least a monitor there. So we set up these suggested these parameters to be, if it's 150 or less, do one monitor. If it's more than that, then it's got to be 2 monitors. And if it gets to be 450, we want 3 monitors there. They would pay us, and then we would pay our monitors as stipulated in their contract what it is. We outlined here how we would have them come in and do this. So this is just putting in place what we would like to do as far as people utilizing our buildings.
The only question I have off the bat is, what's the, God give me a name, the position that's going to be in charge of deciding how many monitors? That could be yourself or somebody else?
It'll be my office, yes.
Your office will just make
Yeah.
that decision? Okay.
based upon the number of attendees.
Correct.
John?
We having different organizations using our buildings. What triggers additional monitoring? I thought they are operating quite well for years, right? Why all of a sudden we're adding those monitors because it's increasing the rental as well?
Well, it is, but it's a security factor. And I will tell you, I've been to numerous events that are happening in the buildings, and when it's not a structured program, i.e. the school, the Chinese school, the Hindi school, et cetera, and stuff, there's nobody standing at the doors watching who's coming in and who's going out. So what we want to do, we feel it's important to have somebody there that represents us, that says that, you know, you've got to see who's coming and going and what's going on. That's why we want to put it in place.
Again, if I'm understanding Cindy right, we're not talking about the structured schools.
No, we're not.
So
We're talking about celebrations, like Chinese New Year. We're talking about the Diwali celebration. We're talking about when there's a lot of people, you know, 150.
Somebody rents our building for
Or
big
they
dance
rent it for the
recital, and
dance
there's 800
recital.
people.
That's it, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not a controlled environment. People are coming and going constantly. You've got to have somebody on those doors.
That cares
And you've
about
got to see what's going on.
the purpose of monitoring is to make sure we're preventing certain people getting the mess of the event, or?
No,
People
maybe,
don't wander around the schools.
we're not talking about securing our buildings, we're keeping our buildings safe. It's not about who can go to somebody's event.
That's right, that's right.
It's not about who can go to somebody's event.
No.
It's about what they can do when they're in our buildings.
Like, say, for instance, Susie Smith comes in, but she's just coming in to see the event and stuff, and she has 2 young children in there, and nobody's monitoring what's going on or something. So we want to control what's going on and keeping that safe, and make sure that we keep an eye on what is happening and coming and going. I have to tell you, these monitors are very intuitive as to when they see people and their radar goes up.
And it is safety and security, but it's also a liability factor as
Absolutely.
well.
The kids go upstairs,
You
John,
know.
they're running up in the
Yeah.
upstairs of the
No,
building.
what I'm trying to say is that, for instance, if we have a celebration in the school, and we're only using certain facilities, so every other place we ask to close it, so nobody can go off the area that we're using. And in the area that we're using, we have security. We sign the security. We have people monitoring themselves. I'm just
You
wonder-
do for structured events, but you do not have it for big events. I've been to them, and there's a lot of people just coming and going, and there's nobody watching what's.
Extra pair of eyes that work, that's
Exactly.
really for the school district.
And it's to protect both parties. It's to protect both sides. It's to keep our schools safe, and yet we can't block off. Fire officials prevent us from blocking off everything because you have to have an egress and an ingress. So you can't do that. But as Mrs. Dean said, we have kids that go up and down the second floor and stuff in the middle schools. We have kids bouncing balls down the hallways and knocking down things that are on the walls in the hallways with the kids and stuff. We want, and parents are involved in the activity that's taking place. They're not necessarily paying attention to what their children are doing, and that's what we want these, when you have a large group of unstructured people in the building, an activity going on.
To me, like, because I'm running the Chinese school for years, so to me.
But this is
Not
for
for
your
the school.
school.
Not for the school.
When we have a Chinese New Year celebration, we monitor ourselves. We have enough security to monitor children because we have a liability too. So we do not want to get into problem. What I'm trying to say, event like that, we also monitor ourselves and provide the security that to ensure that nothing, we can, within the area we're using, we monitor them ourselves. So now you're telling me, well, to me, if that's kind of event, I feel that we are doing the job. If you think if someone's not doing the job, should we give them a chance to say, hey, we think you should provide a better monitoring? And then if that doesn't
After
work.
what happens, Gian?
What?
After what happens, do we give them the chance? After what bad thing happens, do we give them the chance? It's like the red light at the corner. Do we wait till somebody crosses the street and gets run over by a car, and we put the red light?
Well, but
When do
so
we give them
far,
the chance?
so far, do we have any problems? Do we?
Mrs. Barber, who just told you about problems? She just told you.
Oh, I thought this is just regular school.
No.
No.
He's talking about at events, these things happen. Kids are running up and down the hallways, they're bouncing
Unstructured
balls,
events.
lockers get hit into.
Personally, I think a belt and suspenders approach to kids' safety and security, you can't argue with it. So, I mean, I think it's a great thing to do.
I just have a question if it's a typo or not. You have, on the nonprofit organization on the back page, it says, I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong and I apologize, Benay? Benay is on both nonprofit organization on the top as a regular user and Benay Brith, is that the same organization or two different?
They're two different.
Okay.
And again, John, this is not against any, this is not designed
No,
for any
Because I'm
organization.
associated with this kind of event, I
I
number
give
of
those
them.
two as examples, but I've been at events, and I know you all
But I've been
have.
at those events, and there's a lot of people at on the Chinese New Year. I mean, there's lots of people
Yeah.
there, and, you know, the kids are, I've been to the one at Dugan, and there's lots of people there,
Yeah.
and they're not, I've seen the kids in the hallway. I'm not saying they've done anything, but just an extra set of eyes so that people can enjoy their event, instead of having to chase the children down the hall.
Here, and also I don't see there's identified, it's like a regular constructed using of the building and a big event. So it's not clear here to me. So,
The regular use of the building would be the schools that are there every weekend, correct?
yeah, but it
So that somebody-
didn't say that, right?
Well, we're clarifying it.
It says at certain events.
You're right.
Certain events would not be the Chinese school, it would be the special events that happen as opposed to.
It says unstructured somewhere.
Because school's not an event. I mean, an event would be a one-time type of thing, correct? Isn't this it?
Well, the Chinese
right
schools are
here.
listed under nonprofit organization are regular users, and then it
You will
says.
provide your own
Nonprofit
monitor.
organizations who are regular users, for example.
On the back, on the back.
The theater groups use our schools for productions.
Theater group.
I mean, there's
theater
never been a
group
problem at the
recreation
Chinese-
Have been great.
What?
Right? There's never been any problem from
No,
the Chinese.
that's
I know,
why-
I'm not saying there ever has
Well,
been, it's
I'm
just an extra
so
set of eyes, I
surprised
mean.
that-
No, we're saying when you have an unstructured group of 150 people, you know, 100 people come walking in this door, and nobody's watching who's coming, what's going on and stuff, and as
Not so much
everybody's.
who's coming, it's where they're going once they come in.
That's it.
I don't want
Absolutely.
anybody to think we're gauging who's coming. We have an
No.
event,
No, it
if someone
doesn't
buys
matter
a
who
ticket, they're
comes.
going in the building.
For the safety
But-
of the school, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
As a user of those buildings, they hold the responsibility and reliability themselves, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they do,
Just
but.
more coverage.
But we as a board are responsible for our
Thank
kids
you.
in the building, and we're responsible the next day after that group leaves, so. Okay?
All right, I'm going to read more. Yeah, okay.
All right, so we have to do a.
You need to vote for this tonight, or are you going to put it on the?
No, we can put it on the
No,
plan.
yeah,
Okay.
please don't.
Yeah, we're going to incorporate it into our use of building, the terms and conditions for the use of building
Okay.
It's going to go into the policy.
Hmm?
Into the policy
procedure.
procedure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Old business as well. Did you have something else?
Well, no, when are we gonna talk about, are we gonna talk about the note from about the sidewalk thing?
Sure, we can.
Is that new
That'd be
business,
new
old
business.
business?
New business.
Is that new business?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to discuss that.
Okay. Can we take a look at the 4-page flyer? After our last discussion, I wanted you to see this before it went live.
Great idea.
To make sure that you didn't catch anything else here that we needed to look at.
No, it's not available yet. It's in draft.
There was one, just read.
Okay, then I have a nice discussion.
What? We also invite you to
What do you
visit our
say?
website for additional.
Have a nice
discussion.
discussion. So I wanted to make sure that if there was anything else that you thought in here, we had a great catch.
I do have one thing, and maybe I'm, on the second column,
where
Okay.
it says, "We also invite you to visit our website at blah, blah, blah for additional details, or to email referendum@marlboro."
Yeah.
To answer any additional, or are you asking them to, you're not asking them to answer, you're asking them to send any, with any additional. Do you know what I'm saying? Instead of saying to answer, this is just a teacher.
No, it's an interesting point.
Yeah, you've got a good point.
Email
It
referendum
just doesn't, as a teacher.
to receive
maybe saying-
answers to additional questions.
It just doesn't make
For us
sense.
to answer?
Yes.
It says, with any additional questions, or, I don't know what other wording, but
Or
it's not
for
to
us
answer.
to answer any?
Right, something just doesn't.
I'm gonna-
Obtain
gonna-
answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense.
Or just, why can't you just put, or email
With.
referendum at,
Or to
or
ask.
email, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
Yeah, and end it
Period.
there.
Yeah,
Just end it,
How about,
don't even put the
how about
last-
to ask any additional questions?
There you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
yeah, just, thank you.
I'm going to take notes, and then we'll take care of it.
I think
Sorry,
at the end of the day, that's clear.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's not a big thing, but it
Good job,
bothered
Rob.
me.
Nice look on the last minute.
Nice job. So obviously, the pictures that we use do not show anything about the buildings. So you have, the classroom layout, the media center, and then the overall site,
One other
excuse me,
question.
site plan.
Cindy, is this how it will be mailed? Will this be what people see?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, flip it
I
up,
took it
yes.
apart just to get an idea
Yes.
of what it may look like.
Yes, and it will also, on the mine isn't done correctly. Where it folds, it's going to say, right on that dot, on that line, it's gonna say the color portion of this flyer has been donated, which it has,
Oh,
because
really?
Terry Ann has paid for some of the cost of this.
Who did?
Terry and
girl.
a person.
Oh, okay.
Our
Very
person.
nice.
We had an extra, that's awesome. We had an extra random picture that was on page 2 that we pulled so that page 3 had all the questions with the frequently asked questions. And then we turned the graph, we turned it into a graph for the referendum tax impact. Talks about the average home, state debt service relief, the interest rate, the total referendum cost, and then what that tax impact is.
She is going to, I felt that little box wasn't clear quite enough, that it applied only to debt service, it's not the general fund also. So she's just gonna reemphasize that in that box somewhere, she's gonna put something in there. That's for debt service only, it has nothing to do with the general operating budget
Right.
taxes.
The only, I'm sorry, the only question I have is the total tax impact, where it's showing the 306 for the first 4 years. Is it clear to people that they're already paying that?
What says it? Current
It's,
tax.
it's
I know,
started,
but-
it says current tax impact. of
I'm asking the
debt.
question, I'm sitting in front of it and I didn't notice it.
Oh, okay.
That's really,
What about including 1415? That's what I was talking about last night.
We don't have that, I mean, I could do it, but then it goes back, you have to recalculate things and stuff, so that's why we
You need that
wanted to
answer.
stick, because we're in the
That's what it'll
15-16 school year.
So I think you're just saying make the
Make
asterisk
it
a little
bolded?
bigger.
Okay.
And
Right.
maybe
That-
bold
yeah,
it.
just so that it were put it in red or something, because,
See, I'd put the
Rob?
after the doll,
I
after the
know,
money.
I'm not saying you did it wrong, I'm just saying.
Oh, no, I didn't do this, but I would
bottom
put the
part, what they
asterisk
say?
after the 306,
Current tax.
because.
No,
I'm
down here, I'd
looking
bold it or
after-
something, maybe just bold down here so they see current tax, and,
Yeah,
that's what
That's
they're
what I
already
have.
paying, because that's what.
And then bold the asterisk, right, so that
Yeah.
it matches more.
Robin held that up like this, correct? So
Yeah.
this is what they see on the back?
Correct.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to take it apart to see what.
I just wanted to make it clear
No,
that,
you know what, we've looked at this
I
so
know,
many
that's-
times, and we need
Right.
fresh eyes to look at it and see it.
I do that
because-
with my business every day, as much as I look at it, I give it to somebody else.
Well, exactly, because it's beyond me now, because I know what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I just don't want anybody to think that
Good night.
year one, they're
Good
gonna
night.
have a
Thank you.
$306 increase
Right.
or impact. So I'm wondering if that should be 00080.
Well, we've been telling everybody.
Just look at this real quick. How about total tax impact, new tax impact with 0 next to it?
And
Because that's
a
really
third-
true.
a third
Third
column.
column that said new tax
Oh.
impact with a 0.
Oh,
That's a good
okay.
idea.
Yeah, it is a little confusing.
Attaboy, sir.
So you want to add
Smart
a
you
third
are.
column,
Thank you.
That's great.
and say
Wait,
tax
so you're
impact.
gonna have
New,
total and then
new.
current?
New tax impact.
New tax
Okay.
impact.
So is that gonna be adding them together? I'm just saying this is gonna get,
Well, it is sort of adding, because 306 plus 0, 306 plus 0, 306,
Right.
and then it'll say 306 plus 80.
It'll
So
it'll
maybe-
show,
Count.
yeah.
maybe it should be current, then whatever you're gonna name
I
the
was
middle
gonna
one.
say, let's flip
And then
the
the
column.
one
Yes.
on the right should be total.
Yeah. Put in the middle.
What is she structured?
So that's your total is at the end.
That's right.
I don't, personally, I think it's simpler, 0, 0, 0, 80, and then mine, and then you're gonna have the last one's gonna be a negative number.
Sell the bonds. That's how it'll work.
Cool.
And that's to let the
Hey, my presentation says 175, this one says 211.
No, it
says
decreases
decreases
by
by
175.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
See?
He said it so many times, he didn't realize it.
Okay, good.
You do say it correctly, though, because you
I
say
do.
it decreased.
86 minus 11, 75. I gotcha.
Okay,
Good. Good thing I didn't
Okay.
say it
Sounds like a
wrong
plan.
last time.
No, you didn't.
Thank you.
welcome.
I think it looks great, that one.
Yeah.
Clear
Yeah,
and
like-
really nice.
And tell Terry thank you for the compliment.
Really
Yeah.
nice work.
Please.
So really, we only have two changes then. It's the third column, and then it's to ask any additional questions.
Right.
Yeah, it's this.
Yep.
Yeah,
You have.
I got them, so I'm gonna refigure this with Terry Ann.
Sounds
Get done
great.
early enough tonight, I'll do it tonight, if not, it'll be tomorrow morning.
Okay. Great job.
Okay, very good.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Anybody else? Oh, before we go to new. Okay, new? I guess Cindy could explain the request that was on the green notes for the,
Oh gosh. Did I even bring up with me? Oh, yeah, I did. We have a request from the
I
township.
moved it already, no?
Well, the meetings changed too, we have to deal with.
Well, we could decide and whatever you want.
Well, the meeting on election, we have a meeting scheduled on election day?
Yes, we do.
So we didn't talk about changing that,
Mm-mm.
We need to.
yeah?
Yeah, because I'm
Yeah, we need
just
to. Yeah,
heading
you're over there.
Okay, well,
So
what are you guys recommending?
to be honest, I have to get in touch with the architect because he hit me last night. We have a project that we're putting out to bid, so we were gonna, and I said, okay, we'll do it on the 10th. Well, then, that was before talking to Dr. Hibbs this morning, and he's away on the 10th. So then, talking to Mark this afternoon, he's going to be leaving, and so we thought about doing the 2nd. So, but.
11-2?
Yeah, but here's the problem is, I don't know, and I won't know tonight because I have to wait for the architect, is to see if I'm gonna have the bid results done so I can do an agenda before we leave for teachers' convention, because there's a timing issue here. So I don't know if this is all gonna work. So I won't know until I can email you all tomorrow and say, give me your dates availability, and we can come up with one.
Do we want to pick a date that's same week, but a different day during the week? Or, because the next Tuesday is no good anyway, right? We just said, right?
I'm sorry?
The following week,
10th.
Tuesday is no good anyway.
Yeah, 10th's no good for me.
So-
Correct.
So do we know if like a Thursday or Wednesday of that first week is okay for anybody? Or do
Well,
we-
the Thursday of the first week, we're closed.
Oh, it's closed already.
And JEA.
So it would have to be
Wednesday?
Wednesday, the 4th.
fourth Thursday. Thursday, the 12th.
Oh, gotcha, sorry, you went the other way.
We really want to come in here the day after, maybe this, after our referendum results. Okay
she
to
said the
kind of come in
12th.
and celebrate or come?
No, I'm doing the following week.
She's saying November 12th.
Oh, that you said the 4th.
No, no.
Maybe we can pencil one in now, and you can let us know for sure at the next meeting, so we're all on the same page. At least we can clear out that date tentatively, so,
Okay, how about if we, like, do a poll and see what people are available on?
Starting with 11-12?
Yeah, or if we want to try the 2nd, I can see. I don't know if I'm gonna, if it's doable, though. What are we talking about?
Changing the board meeting, an election day to another day.
We can't,
all right,
it's scheduled for
I'll
election
start.
day.
November 12th, which is a Thursday, I'm okay. Is anybody else, we have a quorum of board members that are okay?
For what date now?
The Thursday, the
11/12.
12th. Robin, you okay?
That's fine with me. We're just-
I would have to send
Think so,
somebody
I'm all
at
right.
arbitration at 4:30 in East Rutherford that day. But
It's not a
don't
budget
do it
vote
based
or
on me.
anything,
yeah.
Can Katie come?
I don't know if I have
Katie will probably.
We're talking
coverage for my
about
kid.
October or
I don't know if I can make it, Mike.
No, you two?
So
I'm
you're
not
okay, are
sure.
you okay?
Were you?
Craig?
Craig?
Robin was okay, Craig was okay,
That's three.
Oh, okay.
Michael was okay,
Okay, so far I got 3.
I can.
Vic,
Yes.
4.
I can. I can do it.
That's what I'm
Dara's okay, Vicky's okay, Debbie?
I don't think so.
Okay.
November Thursday, Tuesday too, right?
No, November 12th is a Thursday.
Watching you.
I don't know yet.
Okay. Well, we got 5 so far.
You want to try the 2nd? or the 4th and see if it gets any better,
The 4th doesn't,
or the 11th.
I could do the 2nd.
I'm not in town on the 4th.
Are you in town on the 2nd?
Yeah, I'm here in a second.
I can do second.
I can do second. Can y'all do second? November 2nd?
11/2, Rob, Craig?
Yes.
It's a Monday?
Can you do that?
That's right before the election.
Yes.
I think you had more out of the gate for the 2nd.
We can maybe
Okay.
push that one last time.
Debbie, are you okay for
Yes.
the
Good.
second?
And what is this for? For what?
Because we have to move the meeting that's on the day after, because it's election day, because Cindy's not here. She's across the street tallying,
So which day?
counting, and
Are you okay for
Budget,
second?
right?
Um,
Right now.
I'll figure it out.
Okay. Second's better, we can have one more referendum discussion.
Yeah, so I said, one more referendum.
Second.
Sure.
Sarah, you
Now.
okay on the second?
Make it so.
16.
Okay, we'll try for the second, and the fallback's gonna be the 12th.
Okay, yeah.
Speak up.
Can we go back to this chart real quick?
Yes.
that?
Go ahead. Chart.
To the table that's on the flyer?
Yeah.
Because what we did is we just kind of drew it, sketched it.
Doesn't, yeah, it didn't make sense with the three,
Makes my life easier.
I think it is.
To really just show tax increase and then in brackets decrease from the referendum. Just have this column and this column. So it's showing 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Then you're going to have an increase of 80, and then in 2020 to 21, it's a decrease of 175. You put the 306 in there, and people aren't going to understand that they're already paying that.
Well, here's the
That's-
problem.
that's-
He's
I don't
saying that in his
disagree with that, but
presentation.
we've been talking about that all along. And we've been telling them that this is what they're paying this now, and then it's going to be, I see,
So you're thinking people are gonna say, I'm paying nothing now?
Right.
And then I'm only gonna pay $80?
No, but the beach,
I think
even though the 306 is gonna be a number, it's transparent to put it there because it's what they're really paying. And the increase is 0,
that's why I was gonna do it like they had it here.
yeah.
That's how
mean,
I
just-
originally.
I respectfully disagree. I think that's just plain and simple, and that's what people want to see.
Well, could you
I
possibly?
don't think it's a transparency issue.
Well, and could you skin both by simply putting an explanation of that up here?
You can't, that's where the address and stuff
Yes.
is. That's why it's blank,
Address.
Cindy, what has she done in the past? Because if she's done
the
some.
way she had it.
Oh.
I don't like that one.
Wow.
I think just people are going to walk away thinking, I'm not paying another $300.
Yeah.
No, but I think if we
But
bold it,
showing
and I
zero.
think if we.
But if you put another, you said
Column,
current,
I'll put the
another column.
I'll put new tax impact, put that, and then I'll
0,
say.
0, 0, 80, what,
Exactly.
That's our first
And then I'll
one.
do the total and do it on the side, and they'll see, because we've been, I'm concerned that they're gonna say, well, I'm not paying it, I'm not paying anything now. Or they're gonna say, well, you've been talking about the 306, what happened to it?
You pay.
And they remember 306.
Zero,
Yeah,
zero,
they have been.
80.
I doubt it, but
People that
okay.
come here.
It's just a suggestion.
I think we should just not put, the addresses on and explain it.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't get the mail?
okay, where are we? Back to where we were.
Sidewalks.
Sidewalks.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm back at it.
You received a request from Mr. Jonathan Cap
Go ahead, you're doing very good.
asking for the board's support of the township's application to the NJDOT for the Safe Streets Transit Grant. Addition of sidewalks along Route 79 between Windcrest and County Route 520 will improve the pedestrian route between the existing New Jersey Transit bus stops along Route 79. Project will go a long way to enhance the township's vision to increase access to public transportation and link existing walkways and bikeways throughout the township as proposed in the 2009 pedestrian access plan. The missing section of sidewalk is an important link to the bus stops along 79 located at Station Road, Windcrest Road, 520, and Newton. The walkway will also provide a link to several community points of the intersection, including the municipal complex, the building, the court, recreation, library, Henry Hudson Bicycle Path, Marlboro High School, DeFino School, the Jewish Learning Center, and St. Gabriel's. That was the blurb that we got from Jonathan, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
When they filed this before, back in 2011, after talking to the board, I did send a letter that we attached that said that the board was in support of applying. And this is only for them to put in their packet of when they're putting their grant application in. That's all this is for.
Why do they need our support? And what do they need it?
They're asking for it. wasn't represented to me that it was,
Is it a monetary?
If I'm reading, I'm sorry.
no, they're just, you just write the letter and they put it in with their grant application.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go.
You sure?
You had your hand up, I was out of turn. So you-
A couple things trouble me. The one street out of the gate thing that troubled me says, this missing section of sidewalk is an important link to the bus stops along Route 79, located at the Station Road. So, do they mean our school bus stops?
No, I'm
No,
saying
that's-
it's NJ
Okay.
Transit.
No, it's in-
Because my first question to you or Eric, I can't remember, was, is there anything concerning of our safety of our bus stops? And the answer was, no, our bus stops are safe.
Very safe.
So I wanted to put that out there because the way it was worded was as if, we had requested it.
Well, remember, this is coming from the township, and this is what they're putting in their grant application. So it would be based on what the township views as their needs.
The township uses their needs. Okay, so I'm maybe being a stickler, but it's funny, I wish that young man was still here because he was trying to say to us, so why can't we ask the town where Vicky was saying about receiving funds? I'm stumped at the fact that they're asking us for a stamp of approval for what they called walkways and bikeways, which obviously we all want nice things for our town, so that's a personal thing. But when they're approving things, buildings like Camelot or Regent's Park is going to consist of 285 rental units of God knows how many children. They didn't come here to ask us for our approval. So I think there's an issue with that request off the bat. And it's not about the pathways because they're beautiful whenever they make them. That's all I'm saying.
Correct?
I guess what I'm confused about, kind of along the same lines, is why are they asking, and you may not know, so it's kind of rhetorical, but why would they be asking for our stamp of approval over something that has absolutely nothing to do with the school board?
They're not asking for our approval, they're just asking us to
Well, a
support
support.
their.
A support.
It increases
but-
their chances when you have a better.
It could,
right,
it could.
Could help them, which is, I mean,
It's a positive thing when you're looking for your school
Community.
district. in
Well,
your
it would
town
increase
to
our
support.
chances if they would put a support
Or
of
support
our
a
referendum out
referendum.
there. Think they'll do that for us?
Yeah.
Because that would increase our chances, I think.
Looks good.
Just putting it out there.
No, I agree. I think
For Tat.
it's for me, it's just too one-sided. I don't know why, for all the projects that they do,
I said I wonder
why,
if they put
and
a
all the grants
support
that
out
they
there
get.
for our referendum.
Right, Vicki has a good point, and I was going to ask the same question. So, my question back would be, we have some important things we're looking to get done also. Can we have support for those?
That would help us, like Robin just said, it's going to help.
Okay, let
Increase
me
the
put
chances.
this out there. We had flyers delivered to Recreation today. One of the big
We push their flyers, Cindy, all the time. Don't even go there on the flyers.
That's true, we do.
They're asking us to sign a piece of paper that supports that.
Yeah, if
So I would like to hear if they would like to support our important things happening right now.
And honestly, we can't support anything. I mean, we go through pages and pages. We just mentioned a 4-inch thick binder. We mentioned 72 pages. I'd love to say I support extra pathways, bikeways, trails, whatever, but we don't
Saying no
see the
matter-
whole thing. We
You're
don't have
saying
the
no matter
whole
what
picture.
happens, you wouldn't support it?
But I'm saying I would like to see an entire picture. I can't just go by a
it's
request.
a grant, is that what
It's
you
a
said?
grant, yeah, it's something they apply for. It's their grant, it's not ours. We have no involvement in this.
Right.
And I
It's
don't
just
want any
asking
involvement.
it from a school district perspective, would you support this as a safety item for children? That's all.
Well, our kids are transported, so our kids during the school day would not even use these sidewalks, because we transport them on busing.
So
No, I
distinguish
think-
that.
I think it's-
So we
I think
can
it's
be
very-
made with their families.
So
Yeah,
the question really comes down to the question, to say if we prove, then what happen? If we don't prove, then what happen?
Yeah, it's not an approval.
Just like-
They
that's
just
what
want
I'm
us to
Approval, we're
say-
just
So you just say,
supporting.
I mean, that's what boils down the question to.
I just feel like it's not applicable to be bringing to a Board of Education.
But you approved it, it was approved in 2011, and a letter was sent saying that everyone said it was okay. Is that my understanding?
That's right.
So this is just, yeah, Just say,
I don't know.
we didn't
We
get
also have
some.
What I would like to hear what Mark has to say about this coming to the board and what our say in this would put or impact from this end, you know.
So we can certainly discuss it under attorney-client privilege.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
We
you.
could discuss it in closed session. Under
Okay.
attorney-client privilege, I can give you my thoughts on it.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Do we know what portion of, what the total cost of this project is and what portion that the grant covers?
I have no idea.
That's what I'm
So
saying, the
why
whole
is
picture.
grants aren't free?
We don't have a whole picture. We could discuss it then in executive and then come back to the public
As
at
far as
another
what
meeting.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Do they actually want to vote on it? Does it require a vote?
No,
Or
they
What
just
does it
want
require?
that the board agreed to give their support. I write the letter, the board agreed to give their
Got it.
support, and it
Okay.
goes away.
Let's talk
So
about it in closed.
just like
Okay.
I say,
attorney-client
yeah,
privilege.
like FYI. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else under new business? Final public session, open to any item? Just you, would you like to speak?
Yeah, two questions.
Sure.
Do you want to put my name on the record?
Please.
Unfortunately, yes.
And thank you for waiting.
Sure, no problem. Matt Myers, C3 Hollywood Road. The first question I have, Dr. Hibbs, is if you were planning on phasing in the capital improvements, does the amount that you're contemplating take into account the increased costs over the year? Over the various years, are you anticipating awarding the contract to one contractor or to various contractors each year as the project's implemented? Second question I had is there, as it seems that we're not going to have full-day kindergarten again next year, is there any thought as to an intermediate solution, or are we looking at solely the paid program next year?
It's great questions. I'm gonna hand off the first part of that one to Sind. Increased costs, will it be one contractor, multiple contractors? Sind, what do you envision there?
It's gonna be multiple contractors, and because there's a whole lot of varying work in it, but basically, the way this whole capital projects thing's gonna do is, a good chunk of this can be done on off hours, second shift. So they'll be done when school's not in session, at night, et cetera, and stuff. That's a chunk of the work. The HVAC work, no. HVAC work, the way we're gonna break this out, and the way we can do this financing, the way we're talking about is, it's gonna be in two different bond issues. Because we're gonna split the schools. There's 6 schools involved in doing all the HVAC work. So we're gonna take it and do the 3 oldest schools first and do half of them. Then we're gonna do the other 3 schools and do half of them. Third year, we're gonna go back and do the first 3 schools, finish that half, and then do the 4th year and finish that. Now, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you for sure if it's gonna be the same contractor all 4 years. Would I like that? If I liked him the first time, yeah, but I don't know.
You're planning on bidding it out each year?
It has to be bid out every year.
100%. Matt, I would love to be able to tell you that there'd be a way for us to operate full day K. It's not possible. So what will inevitably happen is that if the referendum is hopefully successful, we will be the half-day program until we can open up the buildings. The buildings we have don't have enough toilets. There's no kitchen. There's not a gym. You'd be having gym in the classroom. It just would be horrific, and capacity issues would be there as well. So it's going to be half day and until it's full day, hopefully.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to read the executive session resolution. Be resolved in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, the Marlborough Township Board of Education shall conduct a closed executive session pursuant to personnel and legal exceptions required by NJSA 10:4-12 for the purpose of discussion of personnel matters, MTHC negotiations, MTEA negotiations, and as well as matters of attorney-client privilege. Anticipated length of time of the executive session will be 45 minutes. Action will not be taken in public at the executive session. Be further resolved, the minutes of the executive session will be released for need for confidentiality in accordance with NJSA 10:4-12 no longer applies. Seconded by Dara. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Motion passes. I'll make a motion to go into executive session, seconded by Gian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? No, passes. We're going to exec. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Matt.